Good morning. Happy Sunday. I hope everybody is well out there and that all is going well in your world. Tell me what your topic is, and let's talk about indecision. This is a really tricky topic, and it was prompted by somebody who left a comment on my YouTube channel this week and I won't find it because I should have found it beforehand. That's all right. um, and it's about the fact that she was struggling to decide to have weight loss surgery for the lipedema. And it was just this kind of, she said, oh, I've thought about it 100 times, but I just can't bring myself to do it because this person says that and that person says this. And what about the nutrients? And what about this? And she was in analysis paralysis, right? So luckily at the end of that, she decided she was going to go and actually go see the weight loss surgeon. And this is what happens when we've got chronic disease of any kind. It doesn't matter whether it's good morning. It doesn't matter whether it's, thyroid disease, lipedema, whatever it is, whatever your chronic disease is that you're here watching this. We can often get in analysis paralysis and indecision because there are so many choices out there. And what I find is if we don't know who we are, and this is a tricky territory, then we don't know that's what stops us from actually making choices and making decisions, because we don't know who we are. We don't know how we process things. We don't know what's going to happen if we make this choice over that choice. And so we get stuck in this loop and we farm out our decisions and our outcomes to the doctors. And I hear it from all of you. They don't seem to listen. They don't seem to understand. There are the rare few that do, but it keeps us stuck, rather than knowing, what, this is how I do things. This doctor doesn't agree with that, so I'm going to find a doctor that supports me on having a go this way in healing myself, in improving my symptoms, that kind of thing. And I thought about, do you remember, for my age, I was a teenager in the 80s, and there were all these girly magazines. I don't even know if they still exist. They probably do, called Cosmo and Dolly and all this sort of thing. And remember, they had quizzes in them, like, how well do you know your boyfriend? How well do you know your best friend? That kind of thing. Why don't we do those quizzes for ourselves, right? How well do we know ourselves? How well do we know whether we react to things in a way that's not good for us and we need to work on that? How well do we know, how food reacts in our body? How well do we stop to look at our own symptoms and where they came from? How well do we know what traumas affect us and what we're holding on to? We don't do that. And that's the trickiest part of health and healing, is looking at those parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at. But once we start looking at things and then saying to ourselves, oh, you know what? I do things slowly. I make decisions slowly, but once I make them, I'm all in. It's okay to do that, and it's okay to make that decision. I remember when I was in the Ayurvedic hospital in India back in 2018, and the doctor, so cool, the Ayurvedic doctor, he took my pulse and he goes, you're very sensitive, aren't you? Gently for you. And I felt so seen, even though I had never thought about that for myself, because most people that know me would go, oh my God, she moves like the wind when she decides something. But for me, I do need to go gently until I make a decision, and then I go. But I'd never given myself permission to think, oh, you know what? I am sensitive. I do need to think about things slowly. So we don't do this. And I sat here and I thought about some questions that would we ask ourselves to get to know ourselves. And I feel like it would be a really fun thing to actually come up with a Cosmo or Dolly style quiz. And I might do that down the track, but this is what I came up with so far. Am I managing my health or reacting to it? Often we're just reacting to it. Am I outsourcing my power? Am I leaving everything to the doctor, to the naturopath, to the practitioner, whoever you see? And on top of that, I just thought of, are we leaving those decisions and outsourcing our power to our friends and family that say, oh, you need to do this? Well, no. If it doesn't feel right for you deep down inside, then no, you don't need to do it like your family member. Or yes, they come from a well-meaning place, but it doesn't mean to say that you need to do things the way they say, because the way they do things will be different to the way you do things. Okay, what story do I tell myself around my health? Because we all have a story. It's what usually keeps us stuck in ill health. What am I avoiding by staying stuck, pretty much? So, do you remember old Dr. Phil used to say, what are you getting out of it though? Right? Because there's always something that you're getting out of it, even if it's just your comfort zone and, fear of the future and not knowing what the outcome would be. Do you believe that you deserve to feel good? That's an interesting one. Do you believe you deserve good health? We don't all believe that. Who are you trying to please? Again, that often comes down to I'll eat this way because it's pleasing, my partner, or it's pleasing, my mother, or it's pleasing my whoever, right? Best friend, doesn't matter. Who are you trying to please? Are you trying to please yourself? Which it's never us first. We never put ourselves first. I can guarantee it. Am I confusing being stuck with feeling safe? Okay. What am I afraid of if I choose wrong? Here's the thing, when we sit on the fence and don't make a decision, that's actually more exhausting to us and increases our cortisol because there's no clarity around what it is we want to achieve. So where we think we're safe in sitting in the indecision and not making a decision and, you decide for me, you just tell me what to do. That's actually worse for us physiologically than making a decision that could potentially be wrong, because that's what gets you out of the stuckness, right? That's what gets you out of that, is to just make a decision, whether it's right or wrong. Just be open to it and go, you know what, we'll just see what happens. Then you can tweak as you go. If it's the wrong decision, great. It doesn't matter. At least you made a move, and often just making a move then puts out all sorts of other ideas of like, oh, well, you know what, this didn't work, but by doing this, I've seen this now, and I think that might have a go. I can't even tell you how many things I have tried in my adult life since 21, when my thyroid carked it, to heal myself. I have tried everything you could possibly think of. I had never tried carnivore, having said that, because I had this belief system that, oh, no, that's not healthy for you. So who knows if that would have helped me if I had tried it back then, but I didn't. So I don't get hung up on it. It's just I never tried it. I wasn't meant to. That's okay. But you've got to be open to making the decision to step forward and try something to get yourself out of that indecision, even if it turns out to be the wrong thing for you. But the more you make decisions and the more you get to know yourself, and this is so undervalued, and I can't say this enough. If you don't know how you react to things, if you don't know that have an addictive personality, or that you're an all or nothing person when it comes to food and eating and exercise, if you don't know that, walking doesn't light you up, but swimming does, ask yourself these questions. Get yourself a lay of the land of what is true for you at this time, because that will always change. It will always change as you grow, as you learn. What might be true for, it's like me being carnivore now. For me now, that is comfortable, it's easy, whereas that wasn't true for me even 2 years ago. So you've got to be willing to go with the changes as you grow and you adapt to new thought processes about yourself, because that's what we're meant to do. We're human beings. We're meant to grow. We're here to learn on this planet, because why else would we be here, right? So it's really important that we sit down and go, right, how do I know me? So how do I get to know me? I do strange things. As if you've watched me before, you know I'm into all the weird and wonderful things, along with the very steady, normal, yes, what diet, what this, what that. I'm a naturopath, I'm a clinical nutritionist, because that's how far I went to learn about myself and my own thyroid diseases. I did 4 years of study to do this. But I also did things like kinesiology. I do things like human design, which, if you've never heard of human design, that is one of the things that will tell you about yourself quicker than you can blink. It uses astrology and quantum neutrinos and all this sort of stuff. And most people sort of say, when they hear what their human design is, oh my God, I feel so seen, right? And it gives you permission to be who you really want to be. So all of these sorts of weird things that we all sort of go, oh, that's ridiculous, right? It could be the very thing that helps you know who you are. Right, so let's take human design as an example. Until I knew that I was a manifesting generator in human design, I was the kid that everyone said, can you just stick to one thing? My two brothers, who are generators, still go, oh, you're changing again. But now I don't feel bad about that. Now I'm like, yeah, because I'm here to see and test everything I possibly can. That's what a manifesting generator does. And they bring the shortcuts. They're like, yeah, I've tried this, I've tried that. Here you go. Here's the short version, which is what I do in thyroid school, right? After years and years and years of testing on me and doing all these different things, I came up with a pathway that, well, it's not my thing, it's the feedback loop. But I found a shortcut way of understanding how it works, right? So that's, once you know things like that about yourself as to what type you are in human design, even looking into your astrology, it sounds ridiculous to some people, but the more you know about yourself from any different angle possible, the more that you can make decisions that are empowered for yourself. And then if the decision's wrong, it was your decision. That's okay. You find another decision that might be helpful to you and you move on. Okay. I think that indecision in health many times comes back to being unsure of ourselves. Okay. Because yes, we've got a disease that might be scary, that we don't know what the outcome is. But many times the doctor, the practitioner, whoever it is you're dealing with, also doesn't fully understand. Doctors, I think a lot of people can doctors, but doctors are meant to know, this little bit about so many things, right? Hundreds of thousands of diseases and syndromes and all the things. Of course, they're not going to go into depth with us, and we kind of expect that they would. And I'm just like, why do we expect them to do the deep dive? Generally, if you want a deeper dive, then you go to the specialist. We actually don't go to endocrinologists really in Australia. So that's not a thing that we go to. So for thyroid disease, lipedema, that kind of thing, it's the GP. When it comes to lipedema, the GP, you're lucky if they understand what that is. So we tend to, as chronic disease people, or people with chronic disease, living with chronic disease, we're the ones that do the research. So why would we not make the decisions for ourselves as to what we need to try or do next or chase or whatever it is, right? We need to do that for ourselves. And the only way we can do that is becoming strong in who we are and knowing that, you know what, I know me better than anybody else on the planet. And this is something I talk to a lot of people about, right? Because if we know ourselves better than anybody else, then we can stand in a decision it doesn't matter if it's wrong. We've learned, okay, that one didn't work for me. Let's move to the next one. Okay, so it's it's a tricky territory. Nobody wants to do it, which is why I talk about it on a Sunday morning. Sunday mornings for me is about like just giving you a little poke. And some of them land and some of them don't. And I find it really fascinating because I love people and I love watching both the light switch on and the light shut down, because it's like, no, that's too much for me. But we're all different, and that's okay. Okay, we all handle things so differently, and it, I think we've just got to start learning more about ourselves. The more we know about ourselves, the less we're worried about other people and the less judgmental we are of other people, because we sit in a space of, oh, you know what? Everybody's got their little thing. Everybody. There's not a person on the planet that's perfect. We know that. But why do we act like other people are perfect and we're not? Okay. it's it's something I'm actually super passionate about, in case you can't tell. So yeah, look for things that help you decide how you function, how you react, how you manage things. What does it look like when you slightly get out of your comfort zone to learn something new? Pardon me, what needs to come into place or into play for you to feel safe to slightly stretch yourself and try something that you beforehand would not have done, right? What needs to happen? And only you can know that, right? I talk about this most days in across my different platforms. Yeah, but how do you feel is always my response. Like, somebody will say something like, oh, but this person and said this and that person said this. What do you think? And I'm like, well, have you tried it? How do you feel? Okay, that's the key. And if you're not keeping a diary of how you feel when you try different things, then you're not going to know. You absolutely have to. And this all sounds like hard work. And when you've got chronic disease, just living is hard work to begin with. We don't share it with people that it's hard work, but we know it's hard work, right? And so I know sometimes the thought of keeping a diary and testing new things is just like, oh, that's just another piece of hard work that I don't have the motivation or the energy for. But it's the only way we're going to fix ourselves. It's the only way we're going to feel better and achieve the life that we deserve and that we feel like we were meant to have. Okay. Nobody, I've said this many times. It's on my Facebook banner. Nobody is coming to save you. Get up. And the more that we understand that it's up to us and that we're actually strong enough to figure things out, then the more we're going to make decisions that benefit us and we get out of the indecision. And once we make a decision and go, oh, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's a wrong decision. That is actually a really freeing feeling. The clarity comes in, the cortisol goes down. It's quite amazing to just make a decision and go, oh, may not work, but let's have a go, right? And that's all I'm suggesting that you do at this point in time. So if you think you want an actual quiz around getting to know you, let me know, because I think that would be a fun thing to actually come up with and see how well we can get to know ourselves, just by asking ourselves a simple set of questions like you would as if you want to get to know your future husband or whatever it is, right? So that's it for me today. It is winter here, so we are off for a walk next, as we do on my husband's days off. And don't be afraid of asking yourself the questions that's going to help you see who you really are. That's all I have to say for you today. And I will see you this time next Sunday. Bye.